As the artist works, I can only imagine putting icing on a cake. He holds a cone made of plastic, like a pencil filled with paste, and grasps it with artistic perfection. He squeezes the end gently. Each meticulous stroke releases the pastes and intricate designs are drawn. What's inside the cone? Today we find out here on The Good Life. We visit Henna Threads to speak to Mark Samuels about henna, the process, and its significance. So tell us about Henna Threads. Why did you decide to take henna and turn it into a business?
It was really a labor of love. I started with a love of Indian culture. As before, I learned that henna wasn't something specific to India. But I still love Indian culture, just generally. Right. Even the movies, Bollywood and such. And I met someone who had a similar passion as myself, and I started doing henna as a tribute to the friendship, and it eventually just blossomed into a business. It wasn't meant to be a money-making thing. I didn't even think that it would take over my whole life in a sense, but that's what happened eventually, and I'm sticking with it so far. It's been 6 years.
Before we go any further, let's find out the mystery behind making a good henna paste.
Henna is a plant. The leaves of the plant are dried, and there's a natural red dye that the plant has flowing through it. And when you dry the leaves, you crush them up and ground them into a powder, and then eventually persons like myself or other henna artists will use that powder, mix it with other ingredients, and make a paste from it. It's applied topically, and then the dye is absorbed through the skin, through the pores, and eventually you get the henna stain. Since it's used as a hair dye, a natural hair dye, so you avoid all of those chemical products that are on the market, which I suppose are fine, right. But if someone wants something alternative and more natural or rootsy, they would opt for henna instead. Henna is also a natural sunblock. Henna helps to regulate the temperature in the body. If you're in a very hot area and you want to remain cool, if you apply the henna paste, it will cool you down. If you're in a very cold area and you want to keep warm or toasty, you can apply the henna paste. It does the exact same thing. Okay. There are some persons who will apply it to areas that have been infected. There are those effects of it as well. Anybody who's interested in that can research that aspect of it. I'm more about the adornment of persons with the henna.
In regards to adornment, what are some occasions that people would get henna done for?
Some persons say that henna is a Hindu thing or ritualistic. Mm-hmm. That's similar to people saying that we practice Jankuna as a religion here in Jamaica, but it's not religious, it's cultural, right? Yeah. And henna is cultural in that same sense. Okay. Some of the practices or traditions around henna in marriage are that you would hide the groom's name somewhere in the patterns on the bride's hands, okay. And they would make a game of it, so he'd have to try to find his name hidden in the pattern. One of the other things is people say the brighter the henna is, or the longer it lasts, the more prosperous the marriage will be, or the better the relationship will be with the bride and the mother-in-law. Another one of the things is that brides tend not to do any housework at all until all of their henna fades from the time that it was applied for their marriage. Okay. Those are some of the traditions that's associated with the bridal aspect of henna. So people get henna if they're going to a party, if they're going to a wedding or getting married, or any rite of passage, if you're celebrating a graduation, if you're celebrating a cultural event like World Hindi Day. This is for persons who are from India, for instance. If it's your birthday, any kind of celebratory event, it doesn't matter what the event is. People get henna for those occasions. But also, persons get henna just because they feel like it, If they want to feel good about themselves, or if they want to I've been told many times that it's very therapeutic, so persons who will just come here and get henna done just for the therapy aspect of it. I don't advertise that, but that's what I've been told by persons who come to me.
It's not surprising that the hands and feet are popular places to put henna to show off the design. But Mark adds that there are additional reasons for choosing these areas.
A lot of people, as traditionally, they get it done on their hands, but henna can be done anywhere. A lot of persons get it done on their feet or off the shoulder, you know, depending on if they want to go out and they're wearing a certain kind of top. If they're wearing something backless, they'll get it done on their back. Typically, I don't practice doing it on the face. There are some persons who do, but you know, the face has skin that's more sensitive than other areas. So generally, I don't do that kind of thing. Persons have asked me and I've said no to them directly. But it can be applied on the face. Some persons use it as a more permanent kind of
like eyebrow tint?
Yeah, like an eyebrow tint. So it's semi-permanent in that sense.
So you mentioned earlier that hands and feet tend to be done a lot. Are there any significant reasons for that?
Hands and feet tend to stain better than other areas, typically. Because, I mean, I guess the way that we've evolved, our extremities have thicker skin. So these areas, and like the heel or the sole of the foot, those areas tend to stain really, really, really dark. And persons gravitate more towards a darker stain, so they gravitate to those areas as well. Henna will stain you anywhere on the body, but the intensity of the stain differs from place to place. On the shoulder, it might be somewhat pale, still very visible, but like as you go up towards the neck, it becomes less and less. We have thinner skin going this way for whatever reason. As you move towards the torso, it becomes fainter, and as you go upward towards the neck, it becomes even fainter. So persons will stick with hands and feet because they'll get that very rich stain.
Talk to us about the advantages of henna. We know it's semi-permanent. Some people don't necessarily want to go and get tattoos done. What would be some advantages of using henna as opposed to something else?
Well, the fact that it's temporary is definitely an advantage in itself, because some persons don't want to commit to something that's permanent, or some persons are fickle and they change their mind very quickly, you know, so they don't want to have something that they're going to get tired of, bored of, or regret. So that's one of the definite advantages to using henna. Another thing is that for persons who are more conservative, you know that it's not going into your blood. When you get a tattoo done, the needle invades a certain amount of layers of skin, and that's what makes it permanent. Henna doesn't invade all of those layers. Henna only invades through the pores the layers of skin that exfoliate. And generally, your skin exfoliates over the period of a week, and so that's how long the henna lasts. It's not that the henna itself goes away, it's that the skin that it's attached to goes away.
Don't go anywhere. When we return to The Good Life, I'll be getting my own henna design. Stay with us. Welcome to The Good Life Need to Know segment. Natural henna will never dye your skin, purple, pink, blue, or black. Henna was used by the pharaohs to stain their fingers and toes. The medicinal value of henna includes relief of fever, headache, and improving blood circulation.
In this cone, I have the dried henna leaves, tea tree oil, lavender essential oil, lemon juice, and brown sugar. Everything in here is all natural, right? But that doesn't mean that someone can't be allergic to any of those ingredients. I think
there's a common misconception that natural ingredients cannot
produce an allergy. That's right. There are persons that are allergic to grass and dirt and different gas, anything.
And shellfish.
And shellfish. Typically, if you have one of those kind of allergies, like if you're allergic to grass, for instance, there's a chance that you might be allergic to henna. But if you don't have allergies usually, there's a 1 in 5,000 chance that you'd be allergic to henna. It's the same kind of chance that you'd be allergic to anything else. there's nothing specific about henna that will produce an allergic reaction in a person. But if you're an expecting mother, I would need to know that prior to you getting henna done, because tea tree oil has a particularly high level of camphor. And so if you're an expecting mother, I would mix the henna only with lavender essential oil, since it has a very low level of camphor.
Talk to us about the mixture itself in regards to the lavender oil and the other thing them way they say we can't remember.
Henna, like I said before, is a dye. Even though it's a natural dye, like every other dye, it needs something to activate it. Okay. If you've picked up fabric dye at the store before, you might read on the package that you need to put it in warm salt water, for instance. So salt would be the activator in that case. For henna, the activator is usually something that is sour, like lime or lemon or vinegar. Okay, so there's an acidic element to that. That's correct. Okay. I mix mine with lemon juice. I don't buy the lemon juice from the store. You can buy the lemon juice from the store. I'm not knocking the lemon juice from the store. But if I want to be able to tell somebody all the ingredients of my henna, I can't tell them what those preservatives are. I don't know. Right. So I squeeze the lemon myself. So the lemon juice in my henna would be the activator. That's the first activator. The second activator is the tea tree oil. In the henna community, we refer to that as terping, because some essential oils have a chemical known as terpenol in there, and it reacts with the lawsone, which is the dye in the henna, to produce a darker stain. So those two things are usually essential when you're making henna paste. You want an essential oil that has that element present in it, and you want something sour. So some of the essential oils that I will stick to are cajeput, lavender, and tea tree oil. Otherwise, there are some essential oils that people will put in there, and they think that it will produce a darker stain, but it won't. Like people will use eucalyptus. You can think of something that smells nice. There are many oils on the market. Not all of them will produce the desired effect. If you don't know the background about henna, then you'll throw anything in there. Right. It might work, but chances are it won't. The sugar causes it to stick to the skin, but it also causes the henna to stay sticky for a longer period of time. If you don't put sugar in your henna paste, chances are not only will it fall off, but it will dry very, very quickly. And the wetter your henna paste is, the greater the chance for the dye to seep into your pores. So you want to have sugar in there, and you want to have a certain amount of sugar in there. Too much sugar will mean that your paste will probably never ever dry, because it will be constantly absorbing moisture from your skin and from the atmosphere. Too little sugar, then your paste will fall off prematurely, which isn't something necessarily bad, but if you really want the best kind of henna stain, you'll want the paste to stay on for as long as possible. Okay. I know you guys are dying to see Mark transform my hand. So we're gonna get started. So Mark, make it pretty. Alright, this cone is all warm now. It's no longer frozen. Okay. So I'll take you through the preparation of the client, and I just need to cut here, make a little snip. I should tell you, some persons roll their cones around a pin. I prefer not to do that, because I find that the pin, the metal from the pin, or metal in general actually, oxidizes the henna at a very fast rate. So I would have to squeeze out all of that oxidized paste, and I think that's a waste. So I roll mine to a fine point where it can't come out, and then I cut it. Are you right-handed or left-handed? I am right-handed. I would advise that you do it on your left hand, because you're going to want to do everything with your right hand, and instructions that follow me doing the application will require you to have a hand that's inactive for a period of time. How long is this period of time? Because I'm trying to... Well, you have to keep the paste on your hand for 6 hours, and then you remove the paste, and you can't get that area wet for an additional 24 hours. That's not 24 hours from the time that I applied. That's 24 hours from the time that you remove the paste. So 6 plus 24, 30 hours in total. So in a case where I want to go and cook dinner, how does that work for me? I have to put my hand in a plastic bag? Well, once you remove the paste, you can cook your dinner. It shouldn't be a problem, but you can't get your hand wet. So you could work in gloves.
Okay.
You could work in kitchen gloves if you wanted to. Or, you know, those latex gloves that you can buy wherever. You just wipe the person's skin with alcohol. It's to remove excess dirt or oils from the skin.
Okay.
Another thing, persons, especially here in Jamaica, typically put lotion on their hands. Kind of, you don't want to go on the road dry or looking ashy, right?
Ashy.
So I've been told, ashy. So you use the alcohol to remove any of that. It's important for the client to know what is going on their skin. If a henna artist cannot tell you the ingredients that are in their henna paste, and I don't just mean randomly spout some ingredients, I mean the ingredients that are in their particular henna paste that they're applying to the person's skin, then the client should not approach that person to have their henna done by them.
Okay.
Generally, I would prefer to say that the person who's applying the henna should make the paste themselves.
Right.
Otherwise, buy from a reputable paste distributor, because there are two kinds of henna paste that are sold on the market. There's commercially, people sell henna paste, right?
Okay.
There is one that contains a chemical called paraphenamine diamine. For short, it's called PPD. It's really the same chemical that's found in black hair dye.
Okay.
It is not to be used on the skin. It is extremely toxic, and it will produce very horrible looking allergic reactions. Because of the amount of sugar that I put in the paste, you will have to remove the paste on your own.
Okay.
However, there are some parts that will fall off, that typically fall off. Jointed areas like the wrist or the knuckle along the fingers, those areas will fall off on their own because those areas are in constant use. Even if you keep your hand completely still, you probably don't realize that you're actually moving it a little bit, and it will break the paste apart and it will typically fall off on its own.
Okay.
Otherwise, the skin, the paste will stick to the skin, and you might actually find it a little bit difficult to remove in some areas, especially if you have hair. If you have a lot of hair growing in those areas, then the paste will stick to it a lot. I will be a little slower in the application if there is hair in the way.
Okay.
And in terms of removing it, if you're a hairy person, what you can do, you can just apply some coconut oil to the area and have it sit for about half an hour, and then you can actually wipe it off with ease after that.
Okay. With artwork as delicate as this, all I could think about is how to prevent it from being smudged. When we come back, we talk about aftercare and prices, so you can get your own henna done. Stay tuned! We've completed the design. Talk to me about the cost for this one.
Okay, something like this would probably be around the $2,000 price range.
Okay.
But designs for me start at $1,000. It would maybe be like, maybe a design for $1,000 would extend the same kind of surface area, but not necessarily the same level of detail.
Okay.
So it starts at $1,000 and it goes up based on how much coverage the person wants. But that doesn't mean that if you got 4 times this size that you'll be paying $8,000 necessarily, because the more you do, the more inclined I'll be to take off some of the cost if you're doing a lot, you know.
Yeah.
And furthermore, in regards to cost, I have to take into consideration that I'm taking out the time to make sure I have a quality product. I make it myself. I don't buy the cheap stuff because, like I said, the other stuff, it is relatively cheap. But the effect is cheap as well. So I'm providing a quality service. I make I do everything myself. I make my instrument myself. I make the paste. myself, and I import necessary ingredients that can't be sourced in Jamaica.
Right.
And I absorb all of those costs. So, and those costs need to be reflected in what I charge my client as well.
Post-care, what are some things that I need to keep in mind, or what should I be doing?
Okay. You definitely should not be flexing your wrist a lot.
Okay.
Since it's on the wrist area, for two reasons. One, I told you that it is prone to fall off of joints.
Okay.
But another reason is while it is still wet, you might smudge some of the details. They might get squashed together if you are flexing details into each other.
Okay.
So that's one thing. You have to leave the paste on for a minimum of 6 hours, like I said before.
Okay.
Once you remove it, there will be a very pale orange stain. After, that stain will oxidize for a 24-hour period and become a dark red stain. If you get the area wet during the oxidization process, it will not get to its peak color. So that part of the process is probably more important than leaving it on for a full 6 hours. If you can't manage to leave it on for a full 6 hours, at least make sure that the stain oxidizes for 24 hours.
What advice would you give to anyone wanting to get some henna work done? Advice in terms of just general guidelines and things they should look out for.
Well, they shouldn't. Well, I would prefer if they didn't come with lotion on the area. Obviously, it's a good idea to have a bath before you come. And it's not that you shouldn't bathe after you leave. You should definitely bathe, but you can't get the area wet. So if you can bathe around it, that would be great.
Okay.
Take into consideration that you might want to do it on a day that you don't have a lot of stuff to do, or if you just took vacation. If you work at a bank, you might want to get it in an area that's not going to be seen readily.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you for having me, Amita.
And thanks for having us. So for those people who do want to get work done, they can come and check out Mark right here at Henna Threads.
Right, and they can contact me via WhatsApp, preferably. It's unlikely that they'll get me if they try me by phone. I will answer my phone, but it's a little bit hard at times when I'm dealing with one client to answer the phone for another client. So usually if they WhatsApp me, they'll get a faster response.
What's the number?
291-3435.
All right, great. And there you have it, guys. Another episode of The Good Life. Come and get some henna work done. It's semi-permanent, you know, no issues as long as you're not allergic to any of the ingredients, right?
Well, typically you wouldn't be.
Alrighty then. And I've been your host, Amita Prasadweb. Until next time, live good.